Contractors, great art doesn't come from chaos, it comes from rhythm. A master carpenter cuts to a line. A chef plates inside a rim. A conductor leads within time. The freedom to create, to build something beautiful, exists because there's structure holding it. Somewhere along the way, contractors started believing that systems kill creativity, that the tighter the process, the smaller the soul. But it's the opposite. Chaos kills faster than any checklist ever will. You can't create your best work when you're drowning in disorganization, confusion, and constant firefighting. Operational control isn't a cage. It's the sheet music that lets your team play in harmony. And when everyone moves in rhythm, projects flow, profits hold, and creativity actually has room to breathe. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Boland, and this is Contractor College. And in this episode, we're going to talk about how to build systems that don't suffocate your talent, they set it free. So let's get to work. Guys, chaos is intoxicating. It makes you feel alive. When everything depends on you, the calls, the clients, the fires, the fixes, there's this rush that hits every time you save the day. It feels like freedom, but it's really adrenaline, and adrenaline is a liar. It tells you that motion equals momentum, that noise equals importance, that because everyone needs you, you're winning. But the truth is, chaos isn't freedom, it's dependency in disguise. You built a business that can't breathe unless you do. And because you're good at fixing things, you keep it alive just enough to stay stuck. That's why chaos feels safe. It's predictable. You know how to solve it. You built an identity around it. You've been the hero, the firefighter, the closer, the guy who can outwork any problem. But here's the issue. You can't scale a company that depends on heroics. Heroism doesn't compound. Systems do. And that's where most contractors stall out. They associate process with boredom, as if order means mediocrity. But that's backwards. The only reason a company feels boring is because you haven't learned how to lead from clarity instead of crisis. Crisis leadership is adrenaline-based. It rewards reaction. It thrives on chaos because it gives you significance. But control-based leadership, that's discipline. It requires patience, humility, and design. Chaos gives you dopamine, but control gives you peace. And peace is uncomfortable for people who've lived in the storm for years. So they start sabotaging it. They hire without structure. They take jobs that don't fit. They change systems that were finally starting to work. Why? Because when things get a little calm, they start wondering if they're still needed. And that's the lie chaos tells you, that without it, you lose purpose. But the real purpose doesn't come from being needed. It comes from being effective. When you lead with control, your people finally get to perform. When your team has process, they can actually take ownership. And when your systems run clean, you can finally focus on strategy, not survival. That's freedom. Freedom isn't waking up to a dozen fires you have to put out. It's waking up to a company that already knows how to prevent them. The irony is, the same creativity that made you a great builder is what can make you a great architect of systems. You already know how to think in structure. You just stopped applying it to your business. You never frame a house without a layout. You never tile without a pattern. You never concrete without forms. But every day, contractors try to run companies with no process, no rhythm, and no control, and then wonder why everything cracks. Chaos is familiar, but control is foreign. Familiarity doesn't make it right. You don't have to become a corporate robot. You just have to lead like an engineer instead of a firefighter. Because when you build systems around your creativity and not against it, you start multiplying output instead of effort. And suddenly the same rush you used to get from saving the day, you start getting it from seeing your team win without you. That's real freedom. In the next segment, we're going to break down what operational control actually means. Not theory, not corporate nonsense, but the anatomy of control inside a real contracting company. Because once you understand the structure, you'll see that control isn't the enemy of creativity, it's the framework that makes it possible. So ladies and gentlemen, most contractors hear that word control and they picture bureaucracy, paperwork, rules, and red tape. But control isn't about restriction, it's about rhythm. The best run companies don't feel tight, they feel smooth. They feel like a well-tuned machine, predictive, responsive, quiet. So let's talk about what operational control actually is. Control isn't micromanagement. Control isn't obsession. Control is alignment. It's the connection between what you want to happen and what actually happens on the job site. When that connection breaks, you get chaos. When it holds, you get profit, time, and peace. So here are the 5 pillars of control inside every high-performing contracting company. Pillar number 1 is clarity. Everyone must know the mission, the metric, and the method. When your team knows exactly what done right looks like, 80% of problems disappear. Clarity lives in your scopes, your job folders, your calendars, and your communication. It's not sexy, but it's oxygen. You can't hold anyone accountable to what you've never defined. Pillar number 2 is consistency. Consistency builds trust internally and externally. The same kickoff rhythm, the same project updates, the same closeout processes, every single job. If your client experience depends on which PM they get, you don't have a brand, you have a lottery. The tighter your rhythm, the freer your mind, because consistency reduces decisions. And when you make fewer decisions, you make better ones. Pillar number 3 is accountability. I'm telling you, accountability isn't punishment. It's clarity with consequences. It's knowing who knows what and what success looks like. When accountability is missing, effort replaces outcome. Everyone's busy, but no one is effective. When accountability is in place, your team starts thinking like owners. They don't wait for permission, they execute with purpose. Pillar number 4 is visibility. You can't control what you can't see. Most chaos hides in dark corners of your business. The job costing, the labor tracking, backlog health, and overhead drift. You don't need to micromanage, you need to measure. Visibility means your data is current, clear, and accessible. Weekly dashboards, daily production updates, quick financial snapshots. Numbers don't need to be perfect, they just need to be present, because the faster you see a problem, the smaller it stays. Pillar number 5 is rhythm. Rhythm is what ties the first 4 together. I'm talking weekly meetings, monthly reviews, and quarterly resets. Those are the heartbeat of control. Without rhythm, even great systems decay. Rhythm is the reason your team remembers, your data stays current, and your company never drifts too far off course. You don't need to overhaul everything overnight. You just need to pick one rhythm and keep it sacred. The rhythm will start to anchor your culture. Control isn't about tightening your grip, it's about tightening your connection. The right systems don't suffocate creativity, they support it. So think of framing square. It doesn't limit design, it guarantees alignment. That's what operational control does for your business. It keeps the lines true so your creative energy goes into building, not correcting. And when your company moves with clarity, consistency, accountability, visibility, and rhythm, something shifts. The stress falls, the fires fade, the day-to-day starts to hum. That's not rigidity, that's relief. You finally get to lead like an architect instead of a firefighter. And so in the next segment, we're going to talk about how to design freedom inside that control, how to give your team room to move, to innovate, and own their work without the chaos creeping back in. I'm telling you, structure and freedom are not enemies, they're partners. Every great builder already knows this. You don't hand a crew a blank lot and say, hey guys, be creative. You hand them blueprints, boundaries, and specs. And inside those lines, that is where craftsmanship happens. The tighter the layout, the cleaner the work. It's the same with your business. Freedom only feels dangerous when you don't have guardrails to catch you. Systems don't box you in. They let you move faster without fear of collapse. That's what I call structured autonomy. It's the art of designing systems that create freedom instead of restricting it. And here's how it works. Step 1 is to define the negotiables. Every company needs a short list of rules that don't ever bend. These are the structural bolt, the things that protect your margin, your quality, and your reputation. For example, one of mine is no work or schedule changes happen without a signed change order. Every job has a kickoff meeting, and job costing is due every Friday, period. Those are my load-bearing rules. They exist so creativity doesn't have to fight gravity. Step 2 is to basically just loosen everything else. Once the essentials are locked, give your people the ownership of the how. Let the foreman decide how to stage their sites. Let the designer choose presentation formats. Let the project manager find their own rhythm for communication as long as it stays consistent. You don't need to dictate every movement, just define the outcome. Tight on outcome, loose on method. That right there is the heartbeat of structured autonomy. So then step 3 is to build feedback loops. Freedom without feedback turns into drift. It turns into slippage. You need simple mechanisms that keep everyone connected to reality. I'm talking short check-ins, dashboards, debriefs. When people see results in real time, they tend to self-correct. You stop micromanaging and they start managing themselves. That's how autonomy scales safely, because autonomy without accountability isn't freedom, it's friction. Step number 4, y'all, is to refresh your systems with frontline input. Systems rot when they're written once and never touched again. Every quarter, I want you to pull your superintendents and your PMs into a 1-hour system review. Every quarter, and ask them, hey guys, which process slowed you down? Which checklist saved your ass? What's one tweak that would make this easier? You'll find the best ideas come from the people doing the work. When they help shape the system, they own it. And when they own it, they protect it. That's how structure becomes culture. Step number 5 is to reward creative discipline. The contractors who scale smoothly know how to praise process, not just performance. I'm telling you, it's a mistake to only celebrate the big wins. I want you to celebrate the clean ones, the jobs that came in on time, on spec, on budget, with no drama. Make that the flex. Because the company that starts seeing excellence as effortless precision, now you're building a culture that values craft over chaos. And that's what freedom looks like at scale. A calm machine that produces creative, profitable work over and over again. So what's the end result, y'all? It's to start to feel space again. The business runs with rhythm. Your team takes initiative. You stop being the bottleneck. That's structured autonomy in action. The paradox is simple. The more predictable your systems become, the more creative your people can be. When you stop wasting energy on confusion, you free it for innovation. Control gives creativity context. That's what turns a contractor into a commander and a company into a masterpiece. In the next segment, we're going to talk about how to translate that structure into culture, how to lead your team through the transition from chaos to calm without killing your morale or momentum. I'm telling you guys, installing systems is the easy part. Getting people to live inside them, that's the real test of your leadership. Because when you start bringing order to chaos, you're not just changing process, you're changing identity. And what you'll find is the crews, the project managers, even the admin team, they've all learned to survive in the old way. Chaos was familiar. It rewarded quick thinkers, smooth talkers, and firefighters. But now, you're asking them to slow down. You document, measure, and follow a rhythm. And what will happen is at first they'll resist. Not because they hate structure, not because the systems are useless, but because they fear losing relevance. So rule number 1 is to lead with empathy, not enforcement. When you roll out a new system, I want you to explain why it exists, what pain it removes, what freedom it creates. Don't say we're doing this because I said so. Say we're doing this so you're not working Saturdays anymore. Tie structure to relief, not restriction. Rule number 2 is to change the story before you change the system. Every company has a mythology, the unspoken rules that run the culture. In a chaotic company, the myth is the hero saves the day. You have to rewrite that story to the system saves the day. Start celebrating consistency instead of crisis management. Publicly praise the project manager whose job ran smooth and silent. Make calm the new flex. When people see that predictability earns more respect than panic, they start adapting. Rule number 3 is to protect the rhythm. Once you create operational cadence, your Monday huddles, your Friday recaps, your monthly financial reviews, guard them like they're sacred ground. Don't skip meetings just because things get busy. That's when chaos tries to sneak back in. Rhythm isn't a luxury, it's a shield. The moment you keep it consistent, the team starts to trust the tempo, and trust builds calm. Rule number 4 is to model calm under pressure. People don't follow instructions, they follow examples. When something blows up, your reaction teaches them what's normal. If you stay steady, they'll stay steady too. Calm isn't passive, but it is contagious. In fact, the surest sign that your systems are working is when chaos happens and nobody panics. They assess, they communicate, they correct without you. That's the moment you realize you've built leaders, not laborers. Rule number 5 is to make feedback safe. The fastest way to kill your culture is to punish honesty. And when someone tells you a process isn't working, thank them. Then go fix it. You want a team that talks before things explode, not one that hides problems to protect egos. When your people feel heard, they start owning the systems and resisting them. And the final rule is to recognize peace when it arrives. A lot of owners don't. And the first time their phone stops ringing, they assume something's wrong. But that quiet, that's the sound of control. It's not boredom, it's bandwidth. It's the space where leadership happens. The goal of building systems isn't to remove you from the company, it's to remove the chaos from the company. When the culture finally stabilizes, creativity comes back online. The designers design again, the crews take pride again, the owner starts thinking strategically again. That's the culture of calm. It's not a feeling, it's a system people can trust. And once that culture locks in, growth gets easier because the company doesn't have to fight itself anymore. And in the final segment, I'm going to give you a quick diagnostic to measure how calm or chaotic your culture really is and show you how to start tightening the rhythm right now. Guys, control isn't the enemy of creativity. It's the structure that gives creativity somewhere to live. Chaos does feel exciting, but it steals your peace, and control feels rigid at first until it gives you your life back. That's the paradox every great contractor learns eventually. The tighter your systems become, the freer your people get. So here's a simple way to test the health of your company's rhythm. I call it the calm score. So again, grab a piece of paper and write these 5 words down. Press pause. Go do it. Clarity, consistency, accountability, visibility, rhythm. Those are the 5 pillars we talked about earlier. That is the anatomy of control. Now, next to each one, I want you to give your company a score from 1 to 10. 1 means it's a complete freaking dumpster fire. 10 means it's calm. Don't overthink it, just go with your gut. The first number is always right. When you're done, add up the total and divide by 5. That's your calm score. Most companies under 5 million come in somewhere between a 4 and a 6. If you're below that, you're surviving on adrenaline. If you're above that, you're starting to lead with systems. The goal isn't perfection, y'all. You'll never be perfect. It's progress. And every point you raise on that scale adds time, profit, and peace back into your business. It's a simple test, but it's brutally honest because your company's level of chaos will always reflect your level of rhythm. And if you want help tightening the rhythm, I have a tool for that. Go to contractorcollege.com. It's free and it'll show you exactly where your structure's flexing and how to rebuild it before it cracks. You'll see how we help builders, remodelers, and exterior companies go from firefighting to flow, from reactive chaos to predictable profit, all by redesigning how the business moves. Again, it's free. That's contractorcollege.com. Because operational control isn't about restriction, it's about rhythm. And when rhythm replaces chaos, leadership finally feels light again. So now, guys, let's talk about what's coming up. In the next episode, we're going to talk about the leadership transformation that makes it all work. How to evolve from contractor-in-chief to true CEO. Until then, protect your peace, keep your rhythm, and build with a purpose.